What's up, Rafael Cortez here with another video of the Wholesaling Business Blueprint series. I want to talk to you real quick. I want to talk to you about seller distress, all right? The first thing that should come to mind every time you're sitting down across the table from a seller is how can I come in and how can I provide a solution for this seller? How can I alleviate the situation that this person is going through, okay? You are there because you should be an asset to the transaction, not just there for the assignment fee. There's stuff that you have to read in between the lines. You have to look beyond the conversation to see where you actually can come in and provide value to them by creating a legitimate solution for that person to help them go through whatever situation they're going for, all right? They're not calling you because they're in the best state of being most of the time, right? They're gonna be in multiple different, types of distress. And what I wanna do is I wanna cover 4 different types of seller distress with you today. The first one is gonna be financial distress. All right, that one is obvious, and I'll break it down. I'll dive a little bit deeper here into each one of them as we go. But the first one is gonna be financial distress. The second one is gonna be obvious physical distress of the property. The third one is gonna be circumstantial distress. And then the fourth one is going to be timeline distress. There's different things that you're going to be looking out for in order to recognize each one of these. All right, the first one, financial distress, right? They are calling you for a cash offer because there's something that's happening, right? Otherwise, they would probably just go to a real estate agent and then put it up on the L.E.S.S and sell it. Then they would have to do repairs, do inspections, and all kinds of stuff that happen during a traditional real estate transaction. However, they rather go to you and find out about a cash offer. All right, there's probably going to be some type of financial distress in the sense that maybe they can't come in and then take care of the repairs. Maybe they're going to be in foreclosure, behind on payments. Maybe they have taxes that are due, and those penalties are adding up, and now they're just they don't know what to do. They need cash fast. They're being levied. There's liens on the property. They have personal lines of credit, or hear that they have some type of judgment in place. It's going to be an indicator for financial distress. Financial distress is often the number one reason people reach out for a cash offer, right? Now, the second one, and being one of the most obvious ones, is going to be physical distress. Physical distress, it's in the actual property. The property is it's breaking down, needs a new roof, maybe a trashed rental, the windows are boarded up. There's obvious physical distress going on in that property, right? So that one's going to be pretty much a no-brainer. You come in and then you take a look at what the estimated repairs could be and something like that, and then have that conversation accordingly. But that's another type of distress, right? It's not the same as financial distress. Those two are completely different. They may have the cash to come in and then do the repairs on a property that's physically in distress, but maybe they just don't want to. Maybe they can't because they're on the other side of the country. Maybe they don't want to deal with the headaches of the contractors. They just don't have the patience for it. They don't know how to begin, all that sort of thing. So it doesn't necessarily indicate financial distress. Physical distress, it's its own standalone type of problem that you can come in and provide a solution to. Circumstantial distress is one of the ones that gets overlooked the most often. And this one deals directly with what is going on. What's the situation that's happening, all right? What's the scenario with the seller? Not necessarily the property, but what is the seller going through at this point in time that's causing some type of distress? Are they going through a divorce? Is the seller in jail? Oftentimes they may be in jail, and it's the significant other that's calling out to sell the property. Did they just get a job transfer? Is this a vacant rental property and it's been vacant for 3, 4, 5 weeks? Now the seller is really in a tight spot to come in and make the mortgage payments. Was it a bad investment? Is this a probate type of property? Do they just want to liquidate? Do they want to downsize? Do they need to upgrade and upsize and get something bigger? What is the circumstantial distress that is happening in the seller's life that's having them reach out to you for a cash offer, right? Read between the lines. This one is one that you have to read between the lines to figure out really what the problem is, because they're more often than not, they're not just going to come, out in the open and then lay it out. It's something that you're going to have to go through a discovery process, engage in that conversation, build that rapport with the sellers little by little, and then find out what the circumstantial distress is. This is actually one of the biggest places in the seller conversation, in the seller scenario, where you can actually come in and then create value, provide a solution to the real problem. If you fix this circumstantial distress that's happening, more often than not, the other types of distresses within the conversation or the scenario get handled, so they get taken care of as well. Number 4, timeline distress. People get relocated on a regular basis. Maybe they have a better opportunity on the opposite side of the country, right? Now they have to move, and they have to do it within a matter of weeks. It happens, right? So now they have a situation where they can't necessarily just take it up on the MLS and sell the property that way. They have to come in and then look for a cash offer. Read between the lines, figure out if it's something that's time sensitive. Code violations are going to be another one of these, all right? Depending on what the violation is. If it's something huge, maybe it's going to be a combination of financial distress and then code violations on top of it, where they got to fix it in a set amount of time. They don't have the capital, they don't have the ability to come in and then handle that problem. This is somewhere where you can come in and then plug into that problem and then create a solution for the seller. So there are 4 main types of seller distress. These are going to be your main distress signals. And again, to recap on them, is going to be financial distress, physical distress, circumstantial distress, and timeline distress. Now, every time you have a conversation with a seller and you're going through the discovery process, read between the lines, pay attention. Don't just think about your number. Don't think about what you want to say to that seller. Think about what they're saying back to you so you can articulate it. You can actually have a creative construct of what's happening in that conversation and really pick up those areas where you can come in and be of assistance. A lot of the times, they're going to be dropping those cues in bits and pieces. So you have to be very, very attentive, all right, whenever you're speaking to a seller, in order to find out what the real distress signal is going to be. 99.9% of the time, they're going to come at you and they're going to say, yes, I want top dollar for my property. Yes, I want to make as much as possible on the deal. Otherwise, I'll sell it for the right price. I mean, if you haven't heard of, that 1,000 times, you just haven't been calling long enough. But it's usually the first foot forward, right? However, when you actually have a conversation with them, you can discover a lot of things that are laying underneath. And you'll be surprised about the type of things that are actually causing distress. It can be somebody sitting down on a property and then squatting down with no rent, but they just happen to be the granddaughter or the grandson or something like that, and they just don't want to deal with that kind of stuff. You won't know what type of distress it is. I mean, that, for example, that would be circumstantial distress. But you won't know unless you're paying clear attention and you understand how to recognize each one of the distress signals that we just covered right now. All right, so there you guys have it, 4 main types of seller distress. Make a note of those, understand what they are, break them down, understand how to recognize them in conversation, and use them to improve that communication process next time you're sitting face to face with a seller. Until then, stay focused, you got this.